me is that when I was just 17 years old, I moved away from my family for a boy. I'd only met this boy once, and I moved just 3 days after he called me up. I should probably clarify that this was for an ice dance partnership. It's a very big difference. Still true though. So I was an aspiring ice dancer, and in the US and in the world in general, there are more female ice dancers than male. So what happens is the pressure is put on girls to move for a boy. Hence, I left my hometown of Park City, Utah to go train at one of the most prestigious and high-level training facilities. This was very exciting for me. I got to spend 8 hours a day training 5 days a week. And I got to train with the best coaches in the world, well, the US, including 5 Russian coaches. Gotta admit, that was a little scary. Now, with this change, although it was exciting, it came with a lot of issues. One day, my mom called me up and she said, "Sophia, your coach called me earlier, and she said that she caught you eating something you shouldn't have." It was a panini, and according to my coach, it was loaded with all sorts of bad things, like mozzarella, pesto, tomatoes, turkey, and worst of all, bread. That was what my coach was really concerned about, the bread, because carbs, totally bad for you. So my solution to this so-called problem was not to stop eating. Instead, I would place my food in front of my partner, because he was allowed to eat, because he needed to be strong, and he needed to bulk up, but I had to stay skinny. Now, double standards like this continue to pop up. I wasn't allowed to wear baggy clothing, he was. I wasn't allowed to wear colors, but if he showed up to the rink in some funky pants, it was, "Ooh, look who's having fun today." Not me. And then, on top of that, there were the other standards that I had to uphold. Feminine standards. I had to show up to training wearing makeup, having my hair done, and looking overall put together. And if I didn't show up this way, my coaches would yell at me. We would often joke that the boys could do anything, and they could get away with murder if they tried, and the coaches would probably help them. But girls, we were judged from the second we stepped on the ice to the second we got off. Our coaches staring at us, looking us up and down, whispering and rushing to each other, judging us, big time. One day, apparently I didn't fit the presentation standards that my coaches wanted. So one of my coaches, she walked up to me and she said, "Sophishka, what happened to you? You used to be so pretty. Where's your makeup and your hair? You look like shit." That was that day. I feel like I did not look like shit. Maybe I had a couple people showing, but I did not look like shit. Anyways, this standard also appeared in competitions, although not nearly as aggressive. In competitions, girls are held to a higher standard than boys. Girls have to be perfect, but boys can just exist. This is because there are fewer men in the sport. So they're judged at a different standard. They get some extra points. And in skating, we have a term for this. Penis points. Oh, penis points. Penis points are the extra points or the inflated points that boys get simply because they're male. Penis points. Now, like I said earlier, this is because there are fewer men in skating. So when coaches and judges see those men, they're like, "Ooh, we gotta keep them in their sport, in our sport. So we're gonna give them a little boost." If a girl doesn't hit a milestone by a certain age, coaches will be like, "Oh, it's hopeless, she's never gonna get anywhere substantial." But if a boy doesn't hit the same milestone, then he gets a benefit of the doubt. Let's give him a boost and see how far he goes. A girl quitting skating is seen as another casualty of the sport. but a boy quitting is a loss of potential talent. Now, 68% of in 2023, 68% of the members of U.S. figure skating are female, where 28% are male. Clearly, figure skating is a female-dominated sport. However, women and girls are still fighting to be judged on the same scale. It wasn't always this way, though. When skating first came about, it was a pastime for wealthy men and women. And then in the early 1900s, it became a sport that was practiced, again, by both men and women. But it wasn't labeled feminine. As skating took on the characteristics of a feminine sport, like being graceful, aesthetically pleasing, we got the nice sparkly dresses and the cool costumes, and like the entertaining value that it has today, it was labeled feminine, which scared men and boys away, especially during that time, because they didn't want to be seen as feminine. So now we got fewer men in skating and more women. And in ice dance, according to the ISU as of now, a partnership is a man and a woman. So we have all these women that are trying to become ice dancers, and a small group of men that also want to become ice dancers. So the boys got all the power. And to help find partnerships, so I said I moved for a boy. We also have Tinder for ice skating. This is Ice Partner Search, where you can put your profile up on this website, and it's used by both men and women, but more female dancers are on it because male dancers can look through and they can pick and choose which girls to try out with. And then the girls, of course, have to go all the way over to the boy, try out, and then go back home. And then maybe they'll get a call. And then once they do get a call, if they're fortunate enough, they aren't treated the same way. One time, one of my coaches asked me, Sophia, how far are you willing to go? Are you willing to buy a boy? Are you willing to be financially responsible for him? Because that's one way that girls get partners, is a boy wants to leave skating because he doesn't have enough money, so the girl's family will be financially responsible and he stays in the sport. So now he has an upper hand. He can find a partner. He has plenty of girls to choose from. So they're treated like kings. And sometimes they act that way. I've heard of partnerships where the boy will degrade the girl, telling her, you're too heavy to lift, you don't try hard enough, you're not good enough for me. And he justifies his harmful words by saying, I'm a boy, I don't need you, but you're a girl and you need me. You won't be able to find another partner without me. Now, at 19, due to the constant criticism, critiquing, and unfair treatment, I stopped skating. I didn't hate the sport, but I certainly didn't love it. So when I started at NYU, I hadn't skated competitively for about a year. Then I spent my first year at NYU Florence, another year not skating. So last year, when I was finally in New York City, I joined NYU figure skating. And it was here that I relearned my love for the sport. And I relearned it on my own. Here I have a team, and here I feel seen. This was actually at one of the competitions. Super fun. Collegiate competitions, the best. And now, in recent years, there have been some changes made to the rules to promote equal standards. In solo dance, which is one of the disciplines I compete in, and is co-ed, which is great because then everybody gets to participate. They've now made it so everyone has to compete the same steps for required elements. Before, male skaters could do the easier forward steps because they were literally called men's steps. And women had to compete the more difficult backward steps that were literally labeled women's steps. this change was implemented, unsurprisingly, men initially were not able, or they were able, but they had a more difficult time completing these steps because they weren't trained to skate backwards from a young age. More recently, this is Gabriela Papadakis. She's an Olympic gold medalist from France, and Madison Hubble, an Olympic gold medalist from the US. They formed a partnership to promote same-sex partnerships in ice dance. And once the International Skating Union recognizes same-sex partnerships, this will alleviate some of the pressures put on girls in ice dance. More girls will be able to participate because they won't have to struggle to find a boy. And more importantly, it will embrace the current world that we're in and make it more, or make skating more available and, I'm forgetting the word. Well, it'll make it more available for everyone. But beware, the terms and conditions of bias skating will still apply. Thank you.